This is KEEL Election Night coverage. We'll have the winners and the losers and all the numbers on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
Good evening. It is Election Night 2018. Actually, this is part 2. I feel like we just did this a month ago. It's Greg Adams here, Matt Parker in the studio as well. We are live on Facebook right now. We are live streaming on the KEEL app. We are online at KEELnews.com. And, of course, we are on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL with tonight's coverage brought to you by Barksdale Federal Credit Union. We already have some results in right now. About 1% of the voting in. That is statewide. I don't have anything local yet. We are going to keep you up to date all night long with local coverage as we get it. We'll be paying attention to a myriad of races. Statewide, we are looking at the Secretary of State's race, which isn't the sexiest race in the world. Matt Parker, you have some results?
Well, we're starting to get some of the results from Bossier in because, you know, they also get a small portion, a very small portion, but still a portion of the mayor's race, some of the councilman races, as well as their alcohol sales races that are going on. So,
yep, I'm looking at it right now, and I'm actually going to make a note because this is our first report in the mayor's race for the city of Shreveport, because there are portions of Shreveport that are in Bossier Parish. So I'm going to make this note right now so we can reflect back on it later in the night. The first reactions have Adrian Perkins, the challenger, with 82%, and Ollie Tyler, the incumbent, with 18%. Now, that sounds like official big numbers. It's 22 votes.
Yeah.
We have 22 votes in right now. So I'm just writing that down because that is the first number we get tonight on the Shreveport mayor's race. So I want to see the last number tonight, how close that is.
Well, if you remember, last time we did this, the Bossier results were pretty much a sort of a
mirror,
a preview, a little taste of what we got later in the evening, where we're like, that won't stand, and ended up standing exactly the same way. So,
like I said before, we are live on Facebook tonight, and I'm gonna try to react to Facebook as we go. So I have Facebook up in front of me right now, and I see Debbie checking in with a comment asking who won the mayor's race. Polls just closed 7 minutes ago. We just have 22 votes in right now, so we don't know who won the mayor's race yet. We will have that result to you as soon as possible tonight. Again, we are keeping up to date all night long with everything that's going on, including that Secretary of State's race. We do have 1% of precincts reporting in the state on the Secretary of State's race. It pits Kyle Ardoin, who is technically the incumbent, but only in a temporary state after the Tom Shedler
fiasco.
Scandal, fiasco issues. And Kyle Ardoin has not been without his own scandals as his candidacy has gone on. Gwen Collins Greenup is his surprise challenger, and right now, with only 1% of precincts reporting, Ardoin is leading 65-35 over Collins Greenup. We'll keep an eye on that all night. But again, not a sexy race, so not driving numbers to the polls. Maybe the biggest thing in our area that was driving people out were the mayor's race in Shreveport. Mm-hmm. I think even more so than police jury district number 2 in Bossier Parish. You alluded to that. There are some alcohol proposals on the ballot. And those ones, again, we don't have a lot of votes in right now. As we look at those, though, let's see. Yes, and yes. Yes on all 5 of the police jury district number 2 proposals on alcohol that go all the way from 6% packaged alcohol to 1.5% packaged alcohol to wet dry restaurants. I know it's very early, not a lot of votes in, but to see 5 for 5 is actually kind of surprising. I thought that maybe there was going to be a couple of them, maybe on the lower end, maybe the lower proposals 4, 3, and 4, but to see 5 for 5 early on is actually pretty interesting to me.
Well, you know, they did pass fantasy gambling, which we didn't expect to happen last time. So what do we know?
Very, very accurate. Again, we are very early on in the night, though. Polls just closed 9 minutes ago. Not that seems like it was a big thing to close the polls, because from every report that we have tonight, there I don't want to say nobody. We clearly have votes here, but the polls were easy to get to today. The rain kept a lot of people away. The lack of a big, sexy race kept people away. It seems like we've only got a couple hundred votes in some of these races right now, which may only translate into a couple of thousand by the end of the night.
Yeah, the last election last month, it was almost 50% voter turnout, and now they're predicting less than 30%, so it's quite a big drop-off.
Yeah, and actually, I think the 30% number that we saw, that we had from a couple of reports, said they would be lucky to hit that 30% number.
That's the ceiling.
We might be talking about a race that's decided by 18% voter turnout. I wouldn't be shocked by that at the end of the night. Coming up, in addition to watching all of these races in reaction, we have a lot of content, too, from the last few weeks leading up to tonight's races, including a couple of the local political analysts who are paying attention to what was happening. We also have some members of the race itself, including a former candidate who lost in the primary but endorsed one of these candidates, and one of the candidates themselves talking about different issues. And we have a special clip from some of the outgoing city council members, because we do have city council races in Shreveport tonight as well. So we will hear on all of that, including actually one of my favorites, and we might do this one in just a few minutes. Brian Crawford, Shreveport CAO, talking about the trash issue from earlier this week that the mayor's office felt like was going to be a big deal today. Do you think that the trash issue actually caused anybody to vote or change their vote today?
I think it might have pushed people to it had the opposite effect on the people it did affect than the mayor's office was intending, I think, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, yeah, I feel that too. So what we're going to do is we're going to get ready to take a short break. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come back and we're going to hear from political analyst Scott Hughes setting up the Shreveport mayor's race for tonight. This is your election coverage brought to you by Barksdale Federal Credit Union on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
We'll be back with more election night coverage with Greg Adams and Matt Parker on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
ShreveportHelpWanted.com presents the world's worst boss, the one who posts jobs on huge national job sites, looking for anyone with a pulse. We'll just call him Dave.
Ladies and gentlemen, hi, I'm Helen from HR. Dave and I have an announcement about inappropriate humor.
That's right, this is very serious. Helen has told me there's some bad jokes going around this office, and I want to nip it in the bud. If a joke is going to be inappropriate, it has to be funny.
Dave, that's not the point.
Helen, please let me finish. From now on, all inappropriate jokes go through me first. I love inappropriate jokes.
No, Dave, the point is that they are never appropriate.
Helen is right, unless they're done right.
Well,
so I'll help you work on your delivery timing.
to KEEL's election night coverage on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Here's Greg Adams.
Thank you for joining tonight's coverage, brought to you by Barksdale Federal Credit Union. My name is Greg Adams. Matt Parker over there. We are keeping you up to date on all the results across the state tonight, whether it's the state race for Secretary of State or the mayor's race in Shreveport and Caddo Parish, or the alcohol measures that are on the ballot. 5 proposals in Bossier Parish. We're keeping you up to date on all those tonight, and we are live on the KEEL app. We're live at KEELnews.com. We're live on the air, of course, and we are live on Facebook, where we've got the conversation going, by the way. So if you're listening on the air right now and you want to get in on the conversation, we are live on Facebook, and we've got some people, Marvin saying 30% turnout or less. Wow, that is an actual possibility for tonight, especially with the rain and flooding. It sounds like it kept some people away from the ballot tonight. Mike and Kathy Lee, my husband and I voted, but we're in Houghton. At the time I voted, there were a good number of people there. But then that follows up with Frederick Ellis, who says, my precinct looked like a ghost town in an old Western movie. So it sounds like at some point today there may have been people out voting, but for the most part, I think everything that we're hearing is it was slow moving out there.
Yeah, I when the weather's that bad, it tends to keep people away. Plus, it wasn't a big, sexy election, so that doesn't help. I
think more than the rain, the lack of draw on the ballot was something that really kept people in. The biggest thing that was on the ballot, at least in our area, is that Shreveport mayor's race. That had a lot of attention locally. I mean, we talked in the November primary about all the people that are in Bossier and Webster and Red River and DeSoto Parish who were paying attention to that, because there are so many people who may live there, but they work inside the city, or their spouse works in the city. So even though they don't get a say in the mayor's race, they're still interested because it affects their lives. And as we talk about, the way that this area is constructed is that the way Shreveport goes, pretty much the rest of the area goes. So a lot of vested interest in the Shreveport mayor's race, and that's why we've been talking about it for the last few weeks. And we do have some of that audio that we put together from the last few weeks. We have local political analyst Scott Hughes, who was on, I believe, a couple of weeks ago with Robert and Erin talking about how the mayor's race was shaping up. And I believe we have that right now. Here's Scott Hughes from a few weeks ago, right here on KEEL.
Political analyst Scott Hughes is here. Erin, first thing she said off the air was, keep it on the radio, Erin. First thing she said to Scott was, I emailed them both, and they haven't gotten back to me yet.
Yeah, I've offered them time on the radio between now and election. Neither one's answered
Why
me.
would that be, Scott?
What do you read into that?
Well, I think we're looking at a race that may be over, you know, when you look at the numbers.
Okay.
And I don't know what either can really do to change the trajectory. I think Ollie would have to swing for the fences. That's not in her nature. I think Adrian has a tremendous advantage. He doesn't need to make mistakes. The role has reversed from 4 years ago when, remember, Miss Tyler didn't do anything in the runoff. She didn't appear in anything.
Swing for the fences. I know.
Swing for the fences.
What do you mean?
What I mean and what Erin means, why swing for the fences, are two different things.
Gut shots?
When Erin says...
Below the belt shots?
When Erin says Ollie's swinging for the fences, I lived here, I worked here, I paid taxes, I had a job, and I said, that's not swinging for the fences. That's... to say that I am is not swinging for the fences.
Is that bunting?
Playing hardball politics is saying, he didn't, I did, and you've got to mention by name, and that's not in her nature.
Well, I'm a baseball fan, so I'll use a baseball analogy. When you're in the lead, you can play small ball. You can bunt, you can move runners over, you can play traditional, safe baseball. Ollie, in her career, I don't think she's ever played from behind. When you're behind in baseball, you have to go up and try to hit the home run.
Yeah.
And if you look at the raw numbers, we had a 48% turnout, almost 49% turnout. 60,000 people voted. If you look at the second round, that turnout may fall to 30%. It may fall below 30%. Early voting numbers that are across the state are way down for the second round.
Right.
So if we come in at 30%, which I think would be a reasonable hot target, maybe a ceiling for the second round, if Adrian Perkins' voters who voted the first time, 17,000 plus of those voters, if they just come back to the polls, and I feel the Adrian Perkins voter is motivated. They feel momentum. If the same people who voted on the primary come back the second time and turn out 30%, he wins.
It's over.
Okay.
That's how high.
So wait a minute. Wait. I've got to ask you.
Go ahead.
When you say she's got to swing for the fences, if she's in this room with you, Scott Hughes, and you say, we got 10 days left, Mayor. You have got to attack him on A, B, C, D, or E, or you have got to do this. What do you tell her to do?
I don't know what she can do. And that's the problem. Because like I said, if you stick with that first analogy, if all of his voters just come back and turnout falls to traditional levels, he wins. So when you look at I don't think she can go get new voters. She's going to have to turn some of those 17,000 people that voted for Adrian. She has to give them a reason not to vote for Adrian. People who've already pulled the lever have to be given a reason not to vote for him. So when we say swing for the fences, you've talked about this for several days, Robert. I think you have to do more than say, I owned a home. I have a job. I think, and unfortunately, and it's politics and it gets negative, you have to go after the other candidate and you have to give someone a reason not to vote. And in this case, not to vote for someone they already voted for.
Okay, so there are, and I talked about this the last couple of days. Right now, there seems to be, whether it is concerted or not, that's your opinion. That's the opinion I want to get from you. But right now, there's like these three groups. There's Democrats who say that Adrian is really a Republican. And there are Democrats who are saying, hey, Democrats, meaning the people, a lot of Democrats who voted for Adrian. They're saying, Republicans voted for Adrian. Republicans voted for Trump. You hate Trump. How can you vote for Adrian again? There's anti-Adrian group number one. Anti-Adrian group number two. Republicans who say, holy cow, he may really be a Democrat. Who would have thought? And group number three, who say he's neither a Republican nor a Democrat, but say he's controlled by old Shreveport money of both parties, that he's not new blood, but is really just a puppet of the old guard. Are those three groups in any way, are they organized possibly by someone pro-Ali? Because none of them will endorse Ali outwardly.
I'm going to answer your question by saying yes, but I'm going to change the three groups.
Oh, please.
As I look at Shreveport politics, I've traditionally seen four groups in Shreveport. And I'll outline it like this. You traditionally in the African-American community have had two power groups. You've had what's now called the Cedric Glover, Alphonse Jackson traditional branch of African-American politics.
Sure.
And you've had the Greg Tarver branch of African-American politics. You also have had the Republican Party as an organized branch of politics. And then you have this fourth group, this mythical money people, the old money, the smart money.
That elected Hightower.
And
is that accurate?
They move. I don't think you can put them on any ideology. Mm-hmm. They just always seem to be with the winner. And so as I look at the four groups, that's the four groups of Shreveport politics. So as I look at this race, what do I see? I see three of those four groups have strangely, in the last week or two, aligned themselves together to seemingly oppose Mr. Perkins, as you were saying.
Which three?
Well, you clearly see the Cedric Glover camp, the Alphonse Jackson camp. Mm-hmm. They're not happy. Ironically, you see the other African-American power base represented by Mr. Tarver. Mm-hmm. He's certainly not happy. You've had him on this show. It even seems personal with Mr. Tarver. And then now you see a growing trend of the Republican, both through the Republican chairman, Louis Avalon, through Leo Savage, and we'll see tomorrow, I guess, what Mr. Talaferro does. There's rumors he may endorse Ms. Perkins. So, Ms. Tyler. So when you see the three traditional power groups in town going for the person they all campaigned against for the last 6 months, what's going on? And now they're trying to say, oh, it's this other group behind the tree, to use the old Huey Long, analogy, that you should be scared of. What I'm seeing, and I'll just put it in new context, I'm seeing the voter is upset with Shreveport politics. They're upset with those three traditional power groups. Those three traditional power groups have lost power. The African-American community is going to wake up and didn't support the winner if Perkins wins. Mm-hmm. The Republicans are going to, for the fifth or sixth time in a row, not have influence in City Hall, and suddenly they're coming together to go to Miss Tyler. And I think when you look at some of the numbers, I think you're seeing what the voter is doing. The voter, and we talked right before I came on about, you were talking about a safe bet. We're talking about a safe bet. Miss Tyler's a safe bet. If you want to go with Miss Tyler, it's like investing in a money market account. You might get 1% return on your interest. You know what you're going to get with Miss Tyler, good or bad.
101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Robert and Erin, another segment or so with political analyst Scott Hughes. Rather than repeat the question you started at the end of the last segment, read to Mr. Scott the text that you got, without mentioning specific names, from a Shreveport city councilman. And this sort of ties into a neat little bow, Scott will, the connected or not connected by diverse organizations and groups, sudden criticism of Perkins.
They have lost power. It's time for a real change.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we were talking about before the break. The traditional power groups in Shreveport are not having influence in this election. And I think you're seeing I was kind of closing with a stock analogy, money analogy. I said, those that want to bet on Ollie, she's a safe bet. She's like buying a money market or a CD. You'll get a 1% return. Perkins is like the sexy stock. You don't know what you're going to get with him. You could lose all your money, or it could be Walmart stock. It could hit big, Amazon stock, and it could have a huge return. And I think the Shreveport voter is looking at this and saying, I don't really care. First, there's no Republican in the race.
Right.
And for the runoff, I think the voters looking and saying, I don't really care about these old power groups. I'm looking at the next generation. And I think that's why you're seeing so much tension in the market right now. You're seeing a shifting of power, not political parties, a shifting of power. If Perkins gets to the mayor's seat, yes, there may be some people behind him. We've all heard that and seen that. But they've been behind everybody that's held office for 20 years around here. Can he manage that? That's what we're going to watch. I think, and so that's the only negative they're throwing at him. Plus the voting. He's got some things that are coming after him, but it's not seeming to move his numbers. I mean, his numbers are strong, and when you look at the numbers, the hill Ollie has to climb, it's almost insurmountable.
He's not. The people that I know that have met with him since the election say he's really firm on. He's not making deals with people. He's not saying, hey, if you bring this group to the table, I'll give you this or I'll do that. He's kind of saying, I'm going to get my team together. I'm going to get a transition team up and going, and we're going to do what's best for the city. Does that tell you something? I mean, these people that are the power brokers think they're buying him?
Well, it tells me that he understands the text you just got. He understands that this is a shift in political paradigm in the city. Should he win, Ms. Tyler can still win. But should Perkins win, it's going to signal a shift in political paradigm. And so I think he gets that. I think he wants to, if he gets there, he wants to get there clean. And then he wants to be judged on what he does in his 4 years. Ms. Tyler can be judged on her last 4 years. They're there. The record's there. He wants to see if he can get there and can he do something clean. And I think he understands where the numbers are. I think he understands what I told you. If his voters just come back to the polls, he wins this.
Just to clarify, what you're telling me is that the old guard of either party would rather see the old guard of another party win rather than a new guy. I'm not off the mark there, am I?
Well, parties are funny. Parties make their money often by attacking the other party. And we're on 710 KEEL. I'll go to Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh's numbers are way higher when a Democrat is in office. And he can spend 4 years just attacking the president. And it's in many ways, politics are weird. If you're the Democrats, the two Democrat power bases, you're going to wake up and not have a mayor. That's bad for your political future. It could be over, from long term. There's a new sheriff in town, to use the old analogy, on the Democratic side, on the African-American side. On the Republican side, you are looking at the potential that if this guy wins, he could be at least a two-term mayor if he stays around. That's one thing people question. So you're looking at a shift that could ultimately kill the Republican Party.
Golly, and he'd be 40.
You're looking at a guy that might swing for the fences and succeed, and that would be the death blow to the Republican Party. They would be better off with Ms. Tyler and another 4 years of her because they've done nothing but attack her for 4 years.
Scott Hughes, political analyst. Great stuff as always, my friend. Thank you so much.
That was audio from just a couple of weeks ago. Scott Hughes, local political analyst with Robert and Erin right here on KEEL. This is our live election coverage for tonight. We are streaming worldwide at KEELnews.com on the free KEEL mobile app, which you can download in your iTunes App Store or your Google Play Store. We're on the air 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, and we are live on Facebook tonight. We are covering you anywhere you may possibly go. Paying attention to that Shreveport mayor's race, we're paying attention to the Secretary of State's race, and all of the other races for city council seats, school boards, and the liquor laws in Bossier as well. And we started talking about voter turnout a little while ago, and joining us on the phone right now, out and about, we're going to have a couple of live reports from the road. We have Erin McCarty with us to talk about voter turnout. Erin, how's it going out there?
Well, Greg, let me just tell you, from Ellerby Road to the Pines Road area, Southern Hills, Shreve Island, Cedar Grove, MLK, everybody I've talked to today throughout the day say that it's been low. and we're going to probably see it under 30%. We might look back at this election in 2018 and say this was the election for mayor that Mother Nature made the decision, because a lot of people stayed home. When I went to vote, there were 2 other people there. Others have said there were just trickles of people at each precinct throughout the day, and that's from citywide. When you're looking at different demographics, black, white, rich areas, poor areas, trickling through those polling places. And so I'm expecting to see the turnout tonight under 30%. And, Scott Hughes says that could be the determining factor, obviously, which one got their voters out to the polls. I don't know what you're hearing from there.
Well, do you really think that it was more the weather, or do you think that the lack of a big ticket ballot item really cost a lot of people their attention today?
That was one of the deals, but typically in Shreveport, when we have a mayor's race on the ballot, people really do care about that, and they go out and vote. But this was one of those, too, that even up until the very last week, people weren't sure which one they wanted to vote for. They were not passionate about either one of them. It was like I'm not sure which one is the better bet for me, and there was a lot of people that were undecided, even up until this very last week.
And that could have a big impact. We do have the absentee ballots 100% reported in. Not sure if you heard this earlier. Almost 7,000 absentee ballots counted now. Adrian Perkins leads 65% to 35%. Does that surprise you in any way?
Wow, that's pretty big. Now that would be a lot of younger folks that are, hip to sending those things in the mail and absentee stuff. So he's going to get the younger vote. There's no doubt about that. She's going to get some of the traditional, the older senior citizen votes, and some of the old crowd of Shreveport that has controlled a lot of the money. She's going to get some of those votes, but they're typically going to be the ones that go to the polls, and they're even going to be the ones that go in the rain. So, I don't know how this night will go. I'm at her party now. It's not really popping yet, but I expect it will be a little bit later. But her first party in November was pretty somber. And, if those numbers hold true, 65 to 35, this could be a somber night for Mayor Ollie Tyler.
Erin McCarty, she is out live for our election coverage tonight. Erin, we'll check in with you again in a little bit, all right?
You bet.
All right, Erin McCarty, thank you very much. We are live all night long with your election coverage, brought to you by Barksdale Federal Credit Union. Again, live on Facebook. We're live on that free KEEL app. We're live on the air, and we're streaming at KEELnews.com. More coverage coming up throughout the night. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with some city council talk for Shreveport. That's on the way right here on KEEL.
We'll be back with more election night coverage with Greg Adams and Matt Parker on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. We're back with election night coverage on 1017 FM and 710 KEEL. Here's Greg Adams.
We are live all night long at 1017 FM and 710 KEEL, as well as the free KEEL mobile app, which you can download in the iTunes Store or the Google Play Store. We're also live at KeelNews.com and, of course, on Facebook as well, where we're looking for that conversation to get kicking. So if you want to share this with anyone on Facebook, let them know that we have a conversation happening right now. Billy D. Wilkerson, Shreveport people are tired of not having qualified people to vote for. The two running are the biggest majority favorites. What hurts the election is having too many on the ballot. Kathy Kennedy Price, we're older and vote by mail. Thankful we were successful in avoiding the lines and people at the polls. Yeah, It's a shame that people aren't appreciative of their right to have a say in government of our city and the state. And we also have Philip saying, howdy, Keel. Howdy, Philip. Matt Parker is here as well tonight. Matt, do you have any updates on any of the tallies? I think we're still at just absentee balloting.
Yeah, pretty much. There's a couple of statewide that were out in Bossier Parish for the Secretary of State, but as a whole for any of the stuff that we care about, nothing coming back yet.
We do have a question. Larry Hawkins on the Facebook feed wants to know about the 5 proposals in Bossier Parish for Police Jury District Number 2. Those are those alcohol sales, wet, dry, different varying levels of alcohol, and restaurant ones as well. We do have 100% of absentee balloting in right now, and so far, with the absentee balloting, all 5 proposals are yes votes, but that is not a whole lot of vote in right now. It's just a couple hundred, and I'm sure as soon as those precincts start reporting in, we're going to see those numbers adjust a little bit. But right now, they are all yeses by about 15 to 20% of the vote. Again, just absentee balloting, so as soon as we get more precincts in, we'll learn a lot more, Larry. And we will stay here all night long, as long as it takes for us to get that information. We'll have it to you as soon as we get it. We're also paying attention to the Shreveport mayor's race, to the Secretary of State's race statewide, and in Shreveport, we're paying attention to the council races. There are 4 of them on the ballot tonight: District A, District B, District C, and District D. Right now, much like those proposals in Bossier Parish that we talked about, we have 100% of the absentee balloting in for those races. One of them really, really close. The other 3, not so much. District A right now, with the absentee balloting in, Willie Bradford, 51% of the vote. Rose Willen McCullough, who I might be pronouncing that wrong, 49%. In District B, Lavette Fuller, 73%. Wendy Vance, 27%. In District C, and Matt, this was one that kind of shocked you a little bit, right?
Well, there's just been a lot of talk about this race, and I figured it'd be a lot closer. And it's I don't want to say it's a blowout because it's early voting only, but the margin was a lot bigger than I expected.
Patrick Curtin, 37%. John Nicholson, 63%. And in District D, again, this is all just early voting, absentee balloting in right now. Grayson Boucher, I feel like I need to pronounce that. Butcher. Not even either of the ways that I wanted to pronounce it. 73% of the vote versus Vio Clark, 27%. Again, very early on with that. But the city council will have some open seats because there are some terming out city councilmen. And this week, it was pretty cool to have all 3 of them in the studio to talk about what it was like when they became city councilmen for Shreveport. Why are you giving me that look?
Oh, it sounds like you're about to set up an audio clip.
Yeah.
In the commercial break, you set up a different audio clip.
I did?
Yeah.
Well,
right.
that's what happens. So we're going to set this one up because I wanted to talk about the city council races. So we did have the 3 outgoing city councilmen in the studio this week, and they got a chance to talk about what it was like in Shreveport when they took office and how they're leaving the city. So this is a clip from earlier this week with the 3 outgoing city council members.
So in the outgoing, as they term out Shreveport City Council, there are 3 council members, 3 councilmen who who will be, I was going to say headed to the happy hunting ground. That's not exactly. It's Jeff Everson is here along with Michael Corbin and Oliver Jenkins. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. My pleasure.
Pleasure.
Great to be here.
Thanks
Jeff
so
and I
much
were
for having
talking-
us.
We're talking off the radio a couple of seconds ago. Our favorite spot for nachos is the Corby's Grill, the brisket nachos.
I hear that. I need to stop by there.
You know where the two best nachos? Now, I'm not trying to impugn anyone's nachos, but the two best nacho spots in town are Corby's Grill for the brisket nachos and Abby Singer's for the duck nachos.
I agree on both accounts.
Wow.
We have similar nacho
if
taste.
only you were in my district.
There we go.
How well did the three of you know each other, if at all, 8 years ago when you were incoming council fellas?
Not at all. I mean, I think we recognized each other when the campaign started, but beyond that, I personally
Had you spoken to either of them prior to the campaign 8 years ago?
Probably not.
No, and we're probably just enough age apart between us that we didn't grow up, it's same age here in high school.
We probably all had mutual friends,
Yeah, I think
but
that's right.
not. I didn't know either of them well.
Mike, tell me
I
about
knew
your
Michael a little
Yeah,
better than Oliver.
Tell me about
Jeff
your
and-
relation.
Jeff
Tell me
and I had
about
a
your
little bit.
relationship with them now.
Well, Jeff and I had a little bit of a relationship before we knew each other, but I think that this 8 years on council has given us a great opportunity to get to know each other. Each of us think quite differently at times, and I think that we agree more than people would think that we would agree. And it's been very a very high point of being on council is to be friends with these two guys.
Are you buds now? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think
absolutely.
we have no problem picking up the phone and asking each other for advice and
We
getting opinions.
probably won't have as much of a need to vent to one another after it's all said and done, but maybe those conversation topics
Now,
can go to
that's
something
an
more
interesting
fun.
point you bring up. Looking back at and you can each take this. Looking back at your 8 years on the city council, more good moments or more frustrating moments?
Well, the frustrating moments are because you're trying to work towards something good. Yeah. So, I mean, the frustrating moments aren't necessarily bad. It's just that, nothing worth doing comes easy. So, you got
especially in the city council.
Sure.
Yeah. Certainly, no regrets on my side. I mean, yes, there have been some pluses and minuses.
You're glad you did it.
Absolutely, no. There's no regret at all. I
If
mean,
you
I
weren't
certainly
turned out, is there a possibility for either of the three of you? I'm going to sit out 4 years. I'm going back.
I think it's unlikely for me. I certainly won't speak for the rest. The interesting thing is, if I thought about it, would I stay another 4 years if I wasn't term limited? I'm not sure, and I don't have to make that decision, but I think the idea of getting out and then doing it again, that's a little harder for me to imagine, frankly.
let me start with you, Michael, on this one. You've heard all the people talking about, Shreveport's in trouble, we're in bad shape. Thank you all for your service, by the way. 8 years of God knows what you've been through. Phone ringing at all hours of the night, etc.
People from radio stations.
Yeah, 6 in the morning.
Oh
yeah, those
God.
crazy nuts. What do you see as the city's biggest problem? And then what advice would you give to the next council to tackle it?
I really think our biggest problem is we have a challenge with accepting this is what we want to be and moving forward with that. We seem to be a bit scattered, and we talk about economic development. We talk about development across bayou. We talk about this or that. And we really got to get a little more focused, I think.
Do we know what we want to be?
I think there's a lot of people that are giving us suggestions of what we can be. We can be a regional hub for healthcare. We can be many things in the region because of our location. But we can't compete with Dallas. We can't compete with New Orleans. We are unique, and we need to embrace that and really get a common mission and push for that and convince our citizens that, there are good things here.
Jeff, you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest problems that we have is right now, I think we're in a moment of transition in the way that people communicate. We used to have pretty shared means of getting our information. And in recent years, everybody gets their information, has their story a little different, digests conversations a little bit differently. So I think there's some disconnect on top of some of the pre-existing problems and some of those market pressures. I mean, this is not an easy time in the landscape of the United States of America to be a small-sized city. I mean, the demographics nationally aren't in our favor. And so while I hear about a lot of the problems, and it's good to be able to hear that, because you want to know what's on people's minds and how you can refocus and address, we really have some things going quite good. I mean, this year, you think about general obligation bond as like mortgages you would have, like we're about to pay off another huge chunk of debt in this coming year, no matter who's elected mayor. And that means property taxes can go down again. They've gone down consistently for a number of years. I mean, there's some things to be very proud of in the way that we're managing this city. That doesn't mean that there's not tremendous challenges and roadblocks, but there's some good stuff going on too.
Okay, in Studio 4, or with us this morning, 3 outgoing Shreveport City Council members, Jeff Everson, Michael Corbin, and Oliver Jenkins. What you got, kid?
I want to get back to Oliver on the challenges our city faces and what advice you would give the incoming council.
Well, yeah, number one, I think Jeff makes a great point earlier. Small to mid-sized cities are struggling across the U.S., and if you don't have a state capital or a major university that is a steady, I'll call revenue source or employer, it's a headwind. So Shreveport just has to acknowledge that, and it is a trend nationally. One of the things I would really encourage, and I've tried to encourage it across the council and as well as the citizens, is citizen involvement. Now, we talk communication a little bit, but the more the citizens can do to alert people of the problems rather than complaining about the problems would really be helpful. We have a good system already on our website that allows people to log in a concern, and then it goes right to the department head or the actual, not even the department head, it goes to the division office or the actual person that can fix it, i.e. a pothole. And things like that could really streamline the system, because when somebody complains on social media but then doesn't tell anybody, then by the time a councilman gets the complaint, then I don't know who does potholes, but I know who the department head. So I send an email to the department head. Department head hands it to the division hands it to the guy who has a truck. I mean, that is not the most efficient way to run an organization, particularly when we have systems in place. So
the genesis of city services probably shouldn't be Facebook. Is that what you're telling me?
That is what I'm saying, and certainly now that we have these new means of communication. And then second is, taking ownership. By the way, litter, that's us. I mean, that is us. Abandoned properties, that is us. Maintaining our front yards, that is us.
And when you say us, you mean citizens.
Yeah. I mean, that is everybody's responsibility. And let
me throw something there. If you throw stuff out your car window and you want to complain about trashy looking Shreveport, shame on you.
And I would say, whether you're throwing it out or whether you threw it in the back of your pickup truck and you drove down the road and it blew out, it is the same thing.
Yes.
You had talked about both Jeff and Oliver a little bit about term limits and being, running out of time. How long did it take you into your first term to get a sense of how the bureaucracy worked? And is that, in your mind, sort of an argument against term limits? I.e., I've been in this 8 years. I'm just starting to understand. Jeff, how long were you into your first term before you said, I think I got a handle on this?
I had a good understanding because I'd worked in and around government before, but I mean, every organization, I think it's one of those things I think it's interesting from the outside that you wouldn't know is when you see a frustrating decision made or something that you're like, why would they do that? That's probably not because everyone thought it was a great idea. It could be because of the result of a lawsuit or because of some federal or state requirement or some other motivating reason that you have to do certain things. A camel is a compromise, right? No one really wanted to do Peace with the Pipes campaign, that was a requirement, things like that are things that I don't think from the outside. So to get that perspective, it takes a little while. And so I think anybody who's elected in this next term to focus early on just in reading and digesting as much as they possibly can is helpful.
Michael, how about you? Did you have any experience in government? Theoretically, for somebody like me who has zero government experience and really no interest at all in reading a lot of stuff. How long? Not that
You're
didn't.
not unique in that part. Just so we're clear.
The three of us may be unique in the amount that we read.
So, since I'm certainly not the exception, I come to find out, how long did it take you to get a handle on things?
Yeah, it really did take a minute. You know, I came from a business background and had worked for the school system for a number of years early in my career. So I knew a little bit about how government worked and the fact that it's not always the most efficient and fastest. But I talked to previous council members and mentors, and the three of us talked a lot. You know, we actually looked at the agenda before we walked into the council meeting and had an idea about what we were voting on and what it meant, and that helped a lot. But you don't just walk in day one and know what you're doing, know how the vote goes, because, you know, as a candidate, and especially between election and inauguration, everybody's giving you their idea. Oh, I want a law that does this. I want a law that does this. And you realize day one, the first time you sit in that circle, it's not quite that easy.
Oliver, you were in the military for 1,000 years. What was which is more efficient, city government or the military?
Well, when we were in the chariots in the first 100 of my 1,000 years, you know, it was really just hub and spoke. So, no.
Man, you got your musket out.
Okay, so I'd say two things. Though the government is similar, the other part is the military is very different in the sense that personnel are always moving, right? There's progression. You're in a particular spot for 3 years and then you move on. There isn't near the upward mobility or transition or kind of necessarily buy-in from personnel at the very lowest level. So that's a difference. I'd say really in terms of budgets, I got the advantage of being elected early. And so I sat through the budget cycle before being elected, which was quite helpful. And I think they would agree that the day that I got there, I had just seen a little bit more about how the city was operating financially. So that was an advantage for me. But it's hard to compare the United States Marine Corps to the city of Shreveport other than they're big. I mean, that's it.
And the Marines has Jeff Everson-like discipline.
Yeah. we actually require people to shave in the morning before coming to work. But beyond that, I mean, it's...
Jeff Everson, Michael Corbin, Oliver Jenkins, outgoing city council members for the city of Shreveport. More on the way.
All right, that was a great conversation that was had with Robert and Erin earlier this week right here on KEEL, as three of the outgoing city councilmen were able to come in all at one time and again, talk about what the city was like when they took office and what it's like now that they are leaving office. And there will be new city council members tonight in Shreveport, as we have 4 races going on right now. Again, just 100% of absentee balloting in on those, so we don't have any precincts reporting right now. But in those races, we do have a tight race in the early voting in District A between Willie Bradford and Rose Wilson McCullough, with Willie Bradford taking the lead. District B, it's a much wider gap in the absentee balloting. Lavette Fuller is leading with 73% of the vote. In District C, John Nicholson has 63% of the vote. Again, all early voting. And in District D, Grayson Butcher has 73% of the vote there. We have absentee balloting for the Shreveport mayor's race, but again, no precincts, just absentee balloting. And of that early voting, about 6,660 votes, Adrian Perkins leads 65-35 over Mayor Ollie Tyler. On the Bossier side of the river, really what we're looking at over there, and of course they do get an opportunity to vote in some of the city council races and the mayor's race, but really in District A, in the absentee balloting for the Bossier side, 1 vote was cast. And that went for Willie Bradford. So we're not really looking at a lot of those. What we are looking at is Police Jury District number 2. There are 5 ballot proposals for different levels of alcohol sales and consumption there. And all 5 of those in early voting were yeses, with about 15. Oh, we just got a huge dump of votes in Bossier Parish.
Oh, did we? Let's see here.
Right as I was looking at it. So here we go. We got 1 precinct reporting out of 6. So 17% of the vote in right now on the Police Jury District number 2. And as those votes are dumped into the absentee balloting, the margin of yes just increased. So all 5 of those ballot proposals, and I know somebody on our Facebook feed, Larry Hawkins, was asking about that earlier. We have a little bit more news now as we get 1 precinct reporting plus the absentee balloting. You're looking at about 60 to 63% voting yes across all 5 of those ballot proposals in Bossier Parish. I don't think that we just got an update in Caddo as we got that Bossier one. So no update in Caddo, no update on the mayor's race there or the city council race. Just that update coming. I guess we know it, we can narrow down exactly where that update of votes came in Bossier Parish. It definitely was one of the 6 precincts in District 2 for the police jury.
Yeah,
So
it kind of
we do have
narrows
that.
it down.
Yeah. But it doesn't change anything except for opening up a wider margin. It's only 17% of the vote, so don't consider those ones to be yeses as of right now. Statewide, there is one race that everyone's got their eyes on because there really is only one race. Secretary of State Kyle Ardoin is leading right now 62 to 38 over Gwen Collins Greenup. That's with roughly 39% of the precincts reporting and 62 of 64 parishes with their absentee balloting in. That actually kind of concerns me as far as that race goes, that 2 parishes don't have their absentee balloting in as of right now. If everyone else has theirs in and there are 2 outliers, and if this race if it stays the distance it is right now, not a concern. But if that distance narrows and this becomes a close race and we have 2 parishes with their absentee balloting, we know what it's like in North Carolina. We saw what it was like in Florida. If those absentee ballots have to be counted, this could get messy, and we might not be out of here at 11 tonight. So we've got our eyes all over the place, watching Bossier Parish, watching Caddo Parish, watching the statewide, and we're keeping our eye on that mayor's race, too. Again, if you're here for the mayor's race, we understand, and we are watching that. Absentee balloting is all we have right now, 100% of the absentee reporting. We've got 65% for Adrian Perkins, 35% for Ollie Tyler after roughly 6,600 votes were cast there. All right, we are coming to the top of the hour. We're going to hear from Fox News at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. I'm sure after 9, we're going to have a huge dump of numbers that we'll sift through. And also, I believe next hour, we've got some of this audio from this past week because there was an interesting fight that broke out in Shreveport that was tied into the mayor's race. Matt Parker is here tonight too, and every time I allude to this, you use air quotes, you laugh.
Well, whenever you say fight, it just seemed like there's this mystery man in an Adrian Perkins shirt, and that's basically where everything comes back to. And both the sanitation workers and the mayor's office and all the folks in between have a different story. I just find it fascinating.
I hear exactly what you're saying, and I follow, and I feel very similar to the way you do. But at that, still saying all that, there was still a fight that broke out that had to do with garbage removal. See, there you go with the air quotes again. There was a fight, even if it was a one-sided fight. Even if it was one-sided, there was some shadow boxing going on over whether or not the delay in garbage pickup for the city of Shreveport this week had to do with the mayor's race, if that was an intent to influence the race or not. We have the explanation from at least the mayor's office, and we'll hear that next hour as city CAO Brian Crawford joined Robert and Erin earlier this week to discuss the issues with the trash pickup in Shreveport and that mystery man in an Adrian Perkins t-shirt. We'll have that audio coming up next hour. Plus, we'll have another big numbers dump. We'll have precincts reporting after 9 o'clock. We're paying attention to the Secretary of State's race. We're watching the mayor's race in Shreveport, the city council races, and the police jury District 2, those 5 propositions with alcohol-related questions. We'll have all of that coming up in just a few after we hit the top of the hour right here on KEEL.
I'm a traveling man, made a lot of stops.
Breaking news and trending talk. This is 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. KEEL, Shreveport. This is KEEL Election Night coverage. We'll have the winners and the losers and all the numbers on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
Good evening. Welcome into hour number 2 of KEEL's Election Night coverage. My name is Greg Adams. Matt Parker is here with us tonight. It's brought to you by Barksdale Federal Credit Union. We are live on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL on your radio. We are also live worldwide at KEELnews.com. You can get the power of KEEL in the palm of your hand when you download that free KEEL mobile app. You can get it in the iTunes Store or the Google Play Store, where you can stream us anytime, especially when we have live election coverage like this. And we're also live on Facebook tonight as well. So if you want to get in on the conversation, have your voice heard, we've been reading your Facebook comments all throughout the night, and we'll continue to as we get more results in. Which, speaking of results, we have a lot of them coming in right now. We just got a big bump in the numbers. We've been talking about all the precincts and early voting numbers that we've had in for about an hour now. But as we cross that 9 o'clock hour local time, we just got a huge dump of numbers, and we will start at the statewide level with the Secretary of State's race. Matt, do you have that up in front of you right now?
I do. Kyle Ardoin has 61%. The young lady, Gwen Collins-Greenup, she's got 39%.
And that's with 100% of the absentee and early voting in now. We were watching that as we went to the Fox News break. And I believe that's over 50% of the precincts now, correct?
Yeah, it's 2152 of 3910. So
okay, so we're about halfway done there with the Secretary of State. Looking at Bossier Parish, I know this has been a big question on Facebook tonight. The 5 propositions in Police Jury District number 2, all on the alcohol sales. We've got 1 of 6 precincts reporting and 100% of the absentee and early voting in. And the yeses on all 5 are between 60 and 65% of the vote. So unless there's a massive change in direction, it looks like those are going to be yeses. And, of course, the big one, the reason that a lot of people are paying attention tonight, the mayor of Shreveport, we have that race with 100% of the absentee and early voting in right now and 14 precincts reporting. That's 11% of precincts. Adrian Perkins, 62% of the vote. Mayor Ollie Tyler, 38% of the vote. So that's trending in the same direction that we saw before. I think actually that gap narrowed just a little bit. I think it was 65-35, so now 62-38. And we did have one final for tonight that I do want to double back to. We have our first official final of the night. Alderman District 1, Town of Plain Dealing, with 100% of the votes in. Shanita Gay is the Alderman District 1 in Town of Plain Dealing, beating Laquita Miller. Official turnout in that race, 21.6% of the vote. And the total number of votes cast, 122. So there were 64 for Shanita Gay and 58 for Laquita Miller.
Close race.
Very close race. But that is our first official call of the night in Plain Dealing. The other big race that we're paying attention to is the council races across the city. We have 4 of them in Shreveport, District A, B, C, and D. And we did get a little bit of an update in some of those, and we're still waiting for some updates in others. District A, we have 47% of the precincts reporting right now and 100% of the absentee and early. Willie Bradford leads that race 53% to 47% over Rose Wilson McCullough. In District B, we have 39% of the votes in with 100% of the early and absentee, and Lavette Fuller is winning by 78%. In District C, we have only the early voting still. That's the one we didn't get the update on. John Nicholson still leads that race. And in District D, we have 20% of the precincts now and 100% of the early voting. Grayson Butcher still leads that race 60-40 over Versa Clark. So that sets the stage after 9 o'clock where we stand right now. Anything shocking to you at this point, Matt?
No, not really. Although I did get a little note from someone that serves in public office that says their prediction for the evening is Ollie's going down 70. Adrian's going to get 70% of the vote.
That's from somebody in an elected position right now, or with experience in an elected position?
Both.
Okay, I'm trying to narrow it down, see if I can guess who you're getting your information sourced from.
No, I wouldn't say information. That's just someone's opinion on
Prediction?
Yeah.
Okay.
Outlook.
Well, we've heard a lot of those, and we heard last hour from Scott Hughes, local political analyst, who talked about the gap that we saw in the primary and how, in his view, it's very easy to expect that gap to widen when you eliminate some of the other people from the race, and he anticipated. I don't think he outright said it, and maybe I'll have to go back and listen for a 17th time. I don't think he outright said that Adrian Perkins is going to win, but as we looked at a lot of the polling data going into this race, even in the primary, we saw how likely it was that Adrian Perkins would win in this kind of race. Now this week, it seemed like there were a couple of scuffles that may have had an impact on this race. And I know we just talked last hour about how your view is that this is a whole bunch of nothing, a big nothing burger. But there was at least a one-sided fight taking place in the city of Shreveport over the trash collection delays that took place in the city. And yesterday, Shreveport City CAO Brian Crawford was on with Robert and Erin to discuss the trash issue that the city had and the potential political involvement of that. And we have some of that audio right now. This is City CAO Brian Crawford with Robert and Aaron from yesterday right here on Keel.
Do you have evidence? What can you tell us to say this indeed is politically motivated?
Let me just both of you guys are pretty smart, and so is your audience. Okay, these individuals are claiming that they're not coming to work for pay issues. Okay, this is the first we've heard of this. I met with some of these employees who came up to the second floor on Wednesday, and I asked them. There's about 8 of them, same ones that have been doing the interviews. Did you call my office? Did you call the mayor's office? Did you send us an email? Did you send me an email? There are ways that are set up in the city to have grievances for pay issues to hurt. They all said, no, we didn't do that. So, okay, they haven't tried to meet with us to tell us that they have an issue, first of all. Second, it's the week of the election, okay? So I'm not going to say it's politically motivated. I'm going to let you make that decision. It's the week of the election, and they've decided to do this the week of the election, and the election is tomorrow, to disrupt city services. So those two things.
The mayor's claim that somebody in an Adrian Perkins shirt told some of these workers to do that. That was a former worker. We obviously know who he is. What can you tell? Can you give us more specifics about that?
What I can tell you is what the solid waste workers told the management of solid waste, and that was a former city employee showed up with an Adrian Perkins T-shirt on, and that doesn't mean that Mr. Perkins had anything to do with this, and told the employees to be disruptive in the next week because he was going to be the new public works director.
Who was this guy? You obviously know him.
I don't know who it is, because let me tell you what, Robert and Erin, that's the least of my worries. Operations are my worries. I want to make sure police cars roll. I want to make sure fire trucks get to fires. I want to make sure that your sanitation gets picked up. And when it didn't get picked up, that's where my focus was. And so we Mayor Tyler made that call. And so we're back on schedule today. We've had to bring in a private contractor to make up for those shortfalls from where those employees put really the citizens at risk and leaving their trash out there. And let me say this, their claims are very disingenuous. They say they haven't had a raise in 10 years, and they haven't been. That is so untrue. And you can talk to some of the city councilmen that come on your show pretty frequently. In 2015, when we came in office, no city employees other than fire and police had a raise since 2015. We gave them a 20% raise in 2016. Some of the lowest paid employees that were in solid waste were making about $8.50 an hour. Mayor Tyler passed a ordinance that paid all city employees at least $10.16 an hour. So some of those got a 20% raise. Then this year, we gave all city employees, fire, police, solid waste, anybody making less than $75,000, another 5% raise. That 5% raise is the largest across-the-board pay raise for city employees in more than 15 years. And the solid waste employees were able to enjoy that raise without any hit to their insurance, because the mayor also wanted to absorb the insurance cost for them this year so they could enjoy the full 5%. She's also done that for 2019. And so when you look at all the things that we have done for them, including buying about $3 million worth of new Packers to improve their working conditions, which they said they wanted when we first came in the door, if you look at the raises they've got, the working conditions that we've improved, everything they're saying basically is less than truthful, and they know it. And so when they say it's not about politics, it's not about this, you have to ask yourself, if the mayor has done all of that for these people, for this small group, and remember it's a small group, it's 15 people, but that's 20% of the solid waste workforce, so it can be disruptive. And they're gonna wait until the week of the election, and they didn't reach out to my office or the mayor's office or anybody else in the administration to say, hey, we've got some issues with our pay, and we'd like to have an audience with you.
Brian,
so
pardon me.
You had those things together, and you tell me if it's political.
Are those workers being less than truthful when they tell the Times, as the Times reported, that there was no guy in an Adrian Perkins T-shirt? What's the conflict there? What do you know?
Well, I think I've got 80 workers, or I'm sorry, I've got 70 workers in solid waste. The workers that met with the Times reporter, how many workers met with him?
I didn't write the Times story.
Maybe it was 2, maybe it was 3. So then
I'm quoting to you back from what the Times reported.
Right. And they're saying that they met with a group of employees. They didn't meet with all of the employees. So I'm not saying maybe these employees weren't the ones that this individual met with. Or if these employees are being less than honest about everything else that I just mentioned, how can we believe them and take them for their word that they're being truthful with the Times report?
Well, you said just a couple of seconds ago, pardon me, Brian, that you didn't know whether this was political or not. If it's not political, why is it happening days from the election?
No, that's the exact question, Robert, that I just posed to you. I'm saying that I'm letting you make that decision, and I'm letting the voters make that decision based on everything else that I've just said. What do you think?
Brian, you acknowledge there's a staffing problem. You do have some that are leaving for higher paying jobs. They're going to Bossier. City council members have sent me numbers saying you are having a problem keeping workers. How do you solve that?
Yeah, that's a good question, Erin. I appreciate it. Bossier took some of the workers, but the large problem was created because of those 15 who decided not to come to work this week and to call in sick. But Bossier is a contract service over there. Bossier also charges their households $27 a month for garbage service. So they've got a little more revenue to play with over there. Okay? We don't charge any garbage service fee in Shreveport, none, which means the general fund, your tax dollars and mine, absorb about $8 to $10 million of that garbage fee a year. And so there's a lot of issues, and that's why a lot of municipalities, look at outsourcing, solid waste and turning it over to a private company so they don't have issues like this. Now, that's the last thing we want to do, but it lends to that argument. And obviously, we have to work within the confines of the budget that the people give us, and that is their tax dollars and your tax dollars and the fees that we charge. And so working within there, we can only pay city employees a certain amount of money before, and leave money in the budget in case of an emergency. In this case, in 2019, that's only about $3.3 million, when really I need to have about $10 million in there. Mm-hmm. And so when we compete with solid waste, who's paying, say, somebody $18 an hour and we're paying our guys $15, but they don't calculate the health insurance costs that we provide, which is a great benefit to our city employees. They don't calculate the retirement, where they get $2.75 a year, which is a defined benefit. So after 30 years, they can leave with about 90% of their salary. Most of those companies don't even offer that. And so we don't offer just a job. We offer a career with the city, and we offer the stability of employment, because the people in Bossier City, that's a new company over there. Well, guess what? The company that was there before that company, they got fired by Bossier, which meant all of their workers got fired too. So you lose that stability too. But it's not just solid waste. It's engineers, it's IT specialists that we lose to CSRA and those people that can offer a more robust salary because they're in the private sector and they make more money. We're confined by the tax dollars that we have to be able to pay salaries, and we try to put that where it best benefits the public service. And that means giving our police officers and firefighters those 2% raises every year, year in and year out. And when we're able to give raises like we were this year to everybody, including fire and police and solid waste, to 5%, we can do that. But we still have a budget to work with. We're private industry. They have a little more flexibility.
Brian Crawford, CAO, City of Shreveport. Thanks for your time.
Listen, thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Erin. That was City CAO Brian Crawford.
When I say 10 seconds, that means 10 seconds.
It counted faster in my head, but okay. I was just very excited to give the latest results with the Shreveport mayor's race. We got new numbers in while we were listening to Shreveport CAO Brian Crawford talk about the trash fight that you don't think was a fight last week. But clearly, if you listen to him, there was a fight happening.
Is it really a fight if it's all on one side?
Yes, shadowboxing. Okay, so Jim Fuller on our Facebook feed has asked us what the update in the current mayor's numbers are, and that's why I was excited and jumped the gun there. We do have new numbers. What we're looking at right now is somewhere between, and let me do a refresh because you're telling me you have different numbers than I have. So why don't you go ahead and give the numbers you have? Yours sounded more up to date than mine.
Yeah, with 42 precincts reporting at the moment. Adrian Perkins is leading with 63% of the vote. Ollie obviously has the other part, which is 37%. That's roughly 17,000 and some change in votes.
It's about 17,509 votes in as of right now. So still a long way to go, but that can change really quickly as we've seen some of these precincts report all together at once. We're looking at a state view where we have a lot of the parishes across the state who have already wrapped up their voting for the night. We did have one race to call already. Earlier was the Alderman District 1 Town of Plain Dealing. 21% voter turnout there. That race wrapped up with just a couple hundred votes, was it? It wasn't even 100 vote. It wasn't even 200. It was 122 votes for District 1 in Plain Dealing. By the way, Shanita Gay wins that by roughly 6 votes. So that's
tight race.
That's a very tight race, which is not what we have right now as far as the Shreveport mayor's race goes. We've got the 17,500 votes in right now, and it is 63% Adrian Perkins, 37% Ollie Tyler. And then the other big race that everyone is paying attention to locally. We'll get to the city council races here in a minute. We want to see if we can hopefully catch some of those precincts dumping in here as we get closer to 9:30. But in Bossier Parish, we have those 5 alcohol propositions in Police Jury District number 2, and all of those right now, 17% of the votes in, and we've got yeses across the board, varying from 60% to 65%. So unless something drastically changes over the next hour, those are all going to be yes votes in Bossier Parish. So we're going to get ready to take a break and hopefully get some new numbers for you. I do have new numbers now. Statewide race, Secretary of State will reveal those to you on the way next, right here on KEEL.
We'll be back with more election night coverage with Greg Adams and Matt Parker on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
Shreveport Help.
FM and 710 KEEL. Here's Greg Adams.
We are live tonight in our second hour of coverage. We're streaming online right now at KEELnews.com on the KEEL mobile app, which is a free download in the iTunes App Store or the Google Play Store. And we are also live on Facebook, where we've got the conversation rolling. We've been answering your questions in real time. So if you have a question and you're on Facebook right now, let us know, and we'll respond to that as soon as possible. We have a couple of updates. I said that we did have an update in the Secretary of State's race before we went to the break, and here is that update. 84% of precincts now reporting Kyle Ardoin leads 62% to 38% over Gwen Collins Greenup. We're getting close to the point now where that race will probably be called very soon. In Bossier Parish, we also have an update on those 5 police jury District 2 propositions that all have to deal with alcohol sales in that district. And we have an update now. We are 50% reporting across all precincts in that district. And the votes for yes have increased now anywhere from 62% to 67%. So as we get more precincts reporting there, that yes margin widens. So as long as that trend keeps up, they will all be yeses in Bossier Parish on their alcohol sales. And, of course, a lot of people paying attention to the mayor's race in Shreveport, and we have another big set of numbers just coming in. 57% of precincts now reporting. Adrian Perkins, 63, Ollie Tyler, 37. So not much movement at all as we see numbers continue to pour in. Now, again, over 57% of those precincts reporting for the Shreveport mayor's race. We're getting close now. We're on the downside. We're over halfway there. So unless something really big happens, right now it looks like we are on our way to a new mayor in Shreveport.
Starting to look that way.
And again, 57%. So there is a lot of vote to still come in. But as we look at this now, we've been talking about the low voter turnout. 57% of precincts report, along with all the absentee and early voting in, 24,446 votes. So over half the vote in, 24,000 votes. I know that a lot of people said the ceiling is going to be 30% on voter turnout in Shreveport. I'm starting to feel like that is more likely than not.
Yeah.
And you know what? As I look at Bossier Parish, Bossier might actually be worse.
Well, they didn't have anything to vote for the most part.
Well, and there are parts of Shreveport that do cross over into Bossier Parish, so we have some of that vote in now, too. If you're looking at the mayor's numbers on the Bossier side, we have 60% of those precincts in. Adrian Perkins leads 74% to Ollie Tyler, 26%. We have all of the... Now, this is actually kind of interesting. Here you go. District A... Oh, this is scary. Hold on. There might be something to this. I've never seen anything like this. District A, City of Shreveport Council race crosses over into Bossier Parish. Mm-hmm. The unofficial voter turnout is 50%.
Mm-hmm.
There was 1 vote cast. So either there's a mistake on the Secretary of State here.
It's one house.
Or there's literally a house where one person decided to vote and the other one didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay, looking at the other races over there, the official voter turnout for District B was 14% in the Bossier Parish side. And we don't have official numbers for the District C race for Shreveport City Council that crosses over the Bossier Parish line. That, to me, that might be my favorite number of the night. If depending on what else happens, the 50% voter turnout with 1 vote cast might be my favorite number of all time covering any election ever. I'm going to remember that forever. We are keeping track of that Secretary of State's race, which, by the way, again, we've got another dump of numbers coming in, and this is how it's going to be for about the next hour, I think. We are up to 88% in now for the Secretary of State. Kyle Ardoin, 61%. Gwen Collins Greenup, 39%. Unless those final precincts, unless the last 12 precincts that need to report are all in New Orleans, the race is likely over here. For Secretary of State, Kyle Ardoin looks like he will continue on as a Secretary of State, but now in an official capacity. He was filling that role interim after Tom Shedler's debacle. So it looks like he will get an opportunity to officially be the Secretary of State for Louisiana. Now the waiting game comes in. Now we wait as we see. We'll go for 5 minutes now, 10 minutes without seeing anything, and then all of a sudden those numbers are going to shoot up as we watch for these precincts to continue to report. Have you seen anything new, Matt Parker?
There's 83 precincts reporting now in Shreveport, so we're almost there. And the number is basically the same, 63%, 37%. Adrian's still in the lead. Let's see here. Willie Bradford, 11 out of 19 precincts are reporting he's winning that race with 53% of the vote.
That is the
all
closest.
20 precincts are reporting in District D for councilman.
Just saw that. We do
Grayson Butcher's winning that one, or
there
won
we go.
that one.
Has won. That is officially called. Grayson Butcher is the councilman for District D in the city of Shreveport. Unofficial voter turnout there, 37%. So that breaks that 30% ceiling that we felt like we might see today. But District D is all wrapped up. Grand total of votes there, 8,427. That's maybe a little bit higher than we expected, although when we did start tonight, we did talk about how District D might be one of the more politically active districts in Shreveport. So seeing 8,000 there and seeing that kind of voter turnout at 37%, that may be the high watermark of the night as we look across the other city council races and the Shreveport mayor's race. Big drop of numbers coming in right now. Shreveport mayor's race, 68% of precincts now reporting. Adrian Perkins, 63%. Ollie Tyler, 37%. That's roughly the exact same number, right?
It's basically been holding steady since the first precinct came in. That seems to be across the board. Adrian's getting 63% of the vote.
Well, I look back. I wrote this down as we started just after 8 o'clock. The first numbers that were reported in the Shreveport mayor's race actually came on the Bossier side of the river, and it was a very low, I think it was 22 early votes in Bossier Parish for the Shreveport mayor's race, and I wrote these numbers down so we could look back on them as we went through the night. At that point, with those early votes in Bossier, it was 82% for Perkins and 18% for Ollie Tyler. So it's not that dominating of a win right now, but it does look like we are trending in the direction of a win for Adrian Perkins as we continue to watch the votes come in. Checking back over to Bossier Parish to see if we got any updates on the police jury district number 2. We have finals. We have some finals here. We have 6 out of 6 precincts reporting, and all 5 alcohol-related proposals are yeses. They are yeses across the board in Bossier Parish for police jury district number 2. The largest margin was proposition number 5, 68% yes, and the second largest was a 67. They were all 63, 64, 65, 67, and 68. The unofficial voter turnout, roughly 19%. 19% in Bossier Parish on police jury district number 2. We are going to continue to watch for these updates as we cross over now past 9:30. Checking back over to Caddo Parish. I'm looking at the state map, by the way. Almost everything is done statewide. A lot of the parishes have just small races that were going on. I think probably Caddo Parish with Shreveport in the mayor's race was probably the most competitive and the one that the most eyes were on, even statewide. I know there's a Secretary of State's race, but I really think that more people were paying attention to what was going on in Shreveport than they were statewide. It was still waiting on another update, but 68% in for the Shreveport mayor's race. Adrian Perkins leads 63-37. I think we're going to set up for a break, and we're going to hear a little bit about the mayor's race when we come back, and hopefully we will have some more finalized numbers. This is Election Night coverage on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
We'll be back with more Election Night coverage with Greg Adams and Matt Parker on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Election night coverage on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Here's Greg Adams.
Back for hour 2 of coverage tonight on KEEL. We are live on the air at 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. We're live online at KEELnews.com on the KEEL mobile app, which is a free download in the iTunes App Store or the Google Play Store, and we are live on Facebook with the conversation going all night long. We've been reading your questions and comments on the air as we keep you up to date on everything that we're looking at in the races tonight, including the race that has all the attention in our area, the Shreveport Mayor's race. And we are now getting down to the wire. We have 83% of precincts reporting. Adrian Perkins leads 63% to 37% over incumbent Mayor Ollie Tyler. We were looking right now to see what precincts were left available, and we're trying to gather that up right now to see if we can make any kind of judgment on what the vote could still look like. Some of these, it's weird places that it looks like some of the vote hasn't come in yet. Not sure exactly what's holding up some of the precincts from reporting, but it's likely that over the next 30 minutes we could suddenly have an end to this race that started months ago between, honestly, when Ollie Tyler first started this race, when this conversation first really kicked up, it was last year when we first started talking about a New Orleans Pelicans G League team in downtown Shreveport and a sports arena as the centerpiece to a Cross Bayou project that was never able to get off the ground. And at that time, a lot of people who pay attention to this kind of thing pointed at that specifically and said that proposal for downtown Shreveport would be the albatross that would be around Ollie Tyler's neck as it came to this election. That's how long ago it has been, and you know what? We're down to the wire right now.
Yep.
I just saw that update. We are down now 92% of precincts reporting, and the margin has not widened or shrunk. 63% Adrian Perkins, 37% Ollie Tyler. We're getting much closer on some of those council district races as well. In fact, District A is over. 100% of the vote in. Unofficial turnout, 27% voter turnout. Willie Bradford wins 54% District A. That goes along with the other district that we had finalized earlier this evening. District D was finalized. Grayson Butcher, the winner there. You got another update?
Well, no, there's only one precinct out in Councilman District B, which is the race between Levette Fuller and Wendy Vance. Levette has the lead there with 75% of the vote.
And honestly, we can call that for Levette because there has been no precinct that has reported with a large enough voter margin to make up the difference in that race. So we can. I said in November that we wouldn't make it a habit of doing this, but we can call an election right now. KEEL News can call the election for Levette Fuller because there's just not enough vote left on the table to make up that difference there. Bossier Parish, by the way, 100% done now. We have all the votes calculated in Bossier Parish, and really the big things that were there were the Police Jury District 2 proposals on alcohol sales. All of those were yes votes, by the way. They were all yes by a pretty wide margin, 63% yes to 68% yes. So Bossier Parish is wrapped up for the night. The only two things that we are still watching are Caddo Parish for that Shreveport Mayor's race, and we are watching the final district race that we're paying attention to is District C right now, which only has 47% reported, and John Nicholson leads that 60% over Patrick Curtin with 40%. So that margin with 47% in right now, there's about a 540 vote difference right there. That actually could be made up. Now, when we're looking at District B, the reason that we can say Levette Fuller is going to win that, the difference is almost 2,000 votes. There's only one precinct left, and there's about 4,000 votes total in that race. So if there's 96% of the vote in right now of 4,000 and there's a 2,000 vote gap, that's already done. Levette Fuller will win District B to go along with the District A win for Willie Bradford and the District D win for Grayson Butcher. So things are starting to heat up really quick here. We've got just a handful. We are less than 20 precincts left in Caddo Parish. 92% of precincts reporting now for the mayor's race. and Adrian Perkins has a 63% to 37% lead. There have been 35,000 votes counted already, and there's a 10,000 vote gap between the two. So with 8% of precincts left out there, they would almost all have to exclusively be Ollie Tyler votes in order for Ollie Tyler to make a comeback. I'm getting word now that it sounds like Ollie may be preparing, Mayor Ollie Tyler may be preparing to concede the race right now.
Wow.
We do have reporters out on the street. We have Erin McCarty is out with is at Ollie Tyler's, and Robert J. Wright is out at Adrian Perkins' party tonight. So once we get that official word, we will have it. But I'm getting a couple text messages right now telling me that Ollie Tyler is preparing to concede the race. So that is not official, but that's what we're looking at right now is a very large it sounds like, yeah, that's officially what we're hearing right now?
That's what it sounds like. I'm trying to get some audio as we speak. So
well, it sounds like Shreveport Mayor Ollie Tyler is conceding the race. We will have a new mayor in the city of Shreveport. Adrian Perkins will win tonight. The margin at this point, it seems like it's going to be academic. We've got over 90% of precincts in right now, and he has at least 30% of the vote. As we were just doing the math to try and figure out how this could potentially turn, I don't think mathematically there's a way, much like in District B, where with only 4% of the precincts left to report and a 2,000 vote gap in a district that's only saw 4,000 votes already, Levette Fuller has won that, even if not officially. I can personally call that race because the math is just not there. And I think that's what we're seeing with the mayor's race right now. 22,000 votes for Adrian Perkins, 12,000 votes for Ollie Tyler right now, 8% of precincts left, 35,000 votes.
Ollie's on stage making a speech as we're talking right now, so we'll have some audio from that here shortly, I would imagine.
Okay, so by the sounds of it, I mean, if she's taking the stage while the votes are still being counted, that's likely the position for a concession speech. You don't come out before the votes are counted and claim victory. So if she is on stage to concede the race right now, then it does look like Shreveport will have a new mayor. Adrian Perkins will be the mayor of Shreveport, which introduces a whole lot of new questions into it. A lot of the questions that have been hypothetical for the last couple of months are no longer hypothetical. They will be real. It will be a real question of what Adrian Perkins will look to do with the city and in all honesty, with a new look city council as well.
How did Scott Hughes describe Adrian as like a high-risk bond? Like,
yeah,
he could either be a complete bust or he could be Amazon and just completely kill it. So we're going to find out what that looks like.
We're calling it 100% of the votes are in. The final votes with 100% of the vote in. Adrian Perkins, 64% of the vote. Ollie Tyler, 36% of the vote. Shreveport has elected a new mayor. Adrian Perkins will be the mayor of Shreveport. By the way, the unofficial turnout number, get this, 30%.
So right on, Scott was 100% right on that.
Right on where everyone thought it was going to be, 30.9% the voter turnout in the mayor's race. We also have official 100% in right now across the board in Caddo Parish. That means we have finals in the district races. Your council races, District A, Willie Bradford, the winner, 54% of the vote. District B, Levette Fuller, your winner with 74% of the vote. In District C, John Nicholson is your winner with 57% of the vote. And in District D, Grayson Butcher, 73% of the vote for the winner in that race. So new council members, new mayor. Shreveport is hitting the reset button tonight moving forward, and we will hear from all of those involved. We have Erin McCarty is out live. She is at Ollie Tyler's party. Robert J. Wright is out live at Adrian Perkins' party. We will hopefully hear from your Mayor-elect, Adrian Perkins, later tonight right here on KEEL. And it sounds like Ollie Tyler is making a speech, likely a concession speech. Hopefully we'll have some of that audio as well. I mean, it at this point, it's paint by numbers, right? Anything? Okay. Nothing shocking. Let's see if we have some finals in the Secretary of State's race. I know that we do have. We're getting close there, and you can pretty much call this one as well. 4% of precincts remaining in the Secretary of State's race, and right now Kyle Ardoin is up 60% to 40%. It's about 100,000 votes separating the two of them, with 500,000 votes total. I guess that race is callable as well. Kyle Ardoin will be your official Secretary of State in Louisiana because there are just not enough votes left on the table. So this is, like we said just about 20 minutes ago, that all of a sudden there's going to be like a 5 to 10 minute period where everything is going to be counted and done, and it seems like we have reached that pinnacle of the night. So everything at this point now moves from hypothetical to actual. Instead of hypothetically Adrian Perkins being the next mayor of Shreveport, Adrian Perkins will now be the next mayor of Shreveport. So what does this mean for the city? What does it mean for, as a larger picture, Caddo Parish? Because like we started the night saying, the way Shreveport goes likely goes the parish and everyone around it. So what are we going to do now? Not what are we going to do? I don't want to phrase it like that. But what happens next? That's the phrasing. What happens next now that Adrian Perkins is officially going to be the mayor of Shreveport? And like I said, it's not just the mayor. Let's go back to those council races, too. The mayor doesn't just get to do as the mayor pleases. The mayor will have to work with a city council, and that city council will have a pretty new look to it, as we have winners across all of the 4 districts that were up for grabs tonight. District A, Willie Bradford, 54% of the vote winning. District B, Lavette Fuller winning with 74%, which, by the way, widest margin in the 4 races for council spots, barely nudging Grayson Butcher, who won with 73% of the vote. And in District C, John Nicholson wins with 57% of the vote. The unofficial voter turnout, by the way, in those districts, actually higher than the mayor's race in half of them. District D, we saw 37% voter turnout. District C saw 33% voter turnout. District B had 24% voter turnout, and in District A, 27% voter turnout. It has been an intriguing last 15 minutes, wouldn't you say?
To say the least. I'd love to hear what Miss Ollie had to say.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. We will hopefully have that audio at some point.
Well, we have it recorded if someone would take a commercial break like I've been motioning.
Oh, well, I'm not paying attention because I'm reading numbers. But we will take a break, and we'll get you that audio from Ollie Tyler's concession speech coming up next right here on KEEL.
We'll be back with more election night coverage with Greg Adams and Matt Parker on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Welcome back to KEEL's election night coverage on 1017 FM and 710 KEEL. Here's Greg Adams.
And there will be a new mayor in Shreveport as Adrian Perkins defeats Ollie Tyler, and we have the audio from Ollie on stage just a few minutes ago.
This is the place that I've called home for more than 5 decades. Please know that leading this city and running a campaign has not been easy. Amen. But still, we were determined to put in the work. Amen. With diligence. Amen. With integrity. Amen. Until the very end. Amen. My administration, the other family that we have, has spent this term moving Shreveport forward by improving the infrastructure that was ailing, improving our streets, and really being good stewards of the taxpayers' money. Amen. Another term, of course, would have allowed us to continue to grow our city and offer even better options for every citizen in this city. Amen. I want you to know that my vision for this city remains the same. That every citizen is afforded a safe environment and economic opportunity, education and training, and a good quality of life. Together, we can still make this city the best it has ever been. I ask you to continue to embrace this city with your hearts, to create an atmosphere of hope and pride. Thank you for your support and prayers as we finish out this term. We fought a good fight. And we finished our course. And I want you to know, above all, we kept the faith. I've said in these past few weeks to my team and to all of my supporters, we came into the office with integrity. And we're leaving with integrity. It has truly been my honor and pleasure to serve you, the citizens of Shreveport. Thank you. And I want to say to you once again, God bless you. And let's unite around Mr. Perkins to make sure that Shreveport continues to be the place we're all proud to call home. God bless you and have a good night.
Breaking news and trending talk. KEEL, 710 AM and K269GO, 1017 FM, Shreveport. is KEEL Election Night coverage. We'll have the winners and the losers and all the numbers on 1017 FM and 710 KEEL.
As we enter hour number 3 of KEEL's Election Night coverage, we are getting ready to wrap things up. Greg Adams joined by Matt Parker. Shreveport will have a new mayor. Mayor-elect Adrian Perkins has won tonight by a margin of, about 30%, 64% to 35%, and there's some decimals in there to work out, with about 30% of voter turnout coming out tonight. For the Shreveport mayor's race. I guess not surprising in any way. I know that we had some political pundits who said it would be a victory to keep him under 70% tonight, which I guess a moral victory, but a moral victory doesn't do anything in this kind of race. So Adrian Perkins will be the next mayor of Shreveport, mayor-elect, who I believe is speaking right now.
Yeah, he's at the podium giving his little victory speech, which is how he phrased it on his Facebook page. He's outlining his plans and thoughts for the city. I'm watching it. I just don't want to put it on live because you know how that may go. So as soon as he ends it, I will signal you so we can hit the secret bat button and get that cleaned up for the air.
So we will have that audio for you here in a few minutes. The first comments of Adrian Perkins after he finds out he will be the next mayor of Shreveport. One last thing to clean up tonight, I guess. Still only 96% of precincts reporting for the Secretary of State's race, but I think that one is safe enough to call right now. Kyle Ardoin will be the next Secretary of State. He is leading right now 60% to 40%. It's a roughly 100,000 vote margin, and unless that 4% of precincts remaining has exactly 105,000 votes, and they are all for Gwen Collins Greenup, which is highly unlikely, we will have a new official Secretary of State in Louisiana. We did have a couple of things going on the Bossier side, by the way, and we can wrap those up real quick. The Police Jury District 2 had propositions up for alcohol-related sales, and all of those were winners by pretty wide margins, all yes votes on those measures, anywhere from 63% yes to 68% yes. And a couple of the other things that we did have going on, too, in Caddo Parish were the council races for Shreveport. District A won by Willie Bradford with 54% of the vote. District B won by Levette Fuller with 74% of the vote. District C won by John Nicholson with 57% of the vote. And District D won by Grayson Butcher with 73% of the vote.
Adrian just got off stage, so we will have that audio for you here in just a few moments.
All right, we will have the first comments from Adrian Perkins after he found out he was going to be the next mayor of Shreveport. We'll have that coming up next on KEEL's election coverage, well, right here on KEEL.
7 FM and 710 KEEL. Here's Greg Adams.
Shreveport will have a new mayor. Adrian Perkins wins over Ollie Tyler 64% to 36%, and Adrian just made his first comment after learning he will be the next mayor of Shreveport, and we have that for you right now.
If anyone wondered what the Shreveport lost hope, tonight is their answer. This answer comes from every corner of our city, from Lakeshore to Lyon Avenue, from MLK to Ellaby Road. It is spoken by people of all walks, young, old, black, white, Asian, Latino, Democrat, Republican. We all call for change. Tonight, Shreveport stands united. United in a belief and a faith for a better tomorrow, and our determination to make that day a reality. The polls have closed, the votes are counted, and that day is here. We reached out to Mayor Tyler to thank her for a great race. She is a dedicated public servant, and we are thankful for her service to the city, and we ask that she remains engaged. This victory does not belong to me alone. Above all, it belongs to God. None of this is possible without His mercy and guidance. It belongs to the citizens of Shreveport. I'm honored by the confidence you've invested in me, and I am proud to serve as your next mayor. Last but certainly not least, it belongs to my teammates. This campaign was truly a team effort. I want to thank those who knocked on doors, made phone calls, volunteered time, and donated money. Your hard work and dedication carried us across the finish line. We won today because we are united. We cannot lose sight of that tomorrow. Progress is a steep climb, and we reach the top by lifting one another up, not tearing one another down. Divided, our obstacles are insurmountable, but together nothing is impossible. When Highland and South Highland joins hands, when Queensboro and Southern Hills, Cedar Grove and Southern Trace work together, no goal is unattainable. At one point during the campaign, we received a message from an amazing woman by the name of Lapetra Bell. The message read, "You are the only candidate that came to my neighborhood and walked down one of the absolute worst streets in my neighborhood. I watched you walk down the street headed in my direction. You came down the street as if the street was named after you. I said to myself, he's definitely not afraid. People often overlook my area, afraid to enter my neighborhood. It meant a lot to see you walk our streets, and for that one reason alone, you're my mayor." Stories like Lapetra is the reason why I ran for mayor. To give hope and to be a leader for all of Shreveport. After receiving this message, I spoke with my team and I told them I was caught off guard by it, and I didn't think it was a big deal because you do not deserve to lead a city if you can't walk down all of its streets. When there is cooperation between law enforcement and the community, there is security and peace of mind. When government ceases to be a web of red tape and becomes a network of support, local businesses and entrepreneurs are sure to succeed. Together we can go further, we can dream bigger, and we can accomplish more. This is our vision of Shreveport, the Shreveport for which you cast your vote. A city where you and your family can thrive, not just survive. A place you, your children and your grandchildren can proudly call home. I believe in this city, I believe in us. I know that together we can overcome our most difficult challenges because that is my story. And my story is a part of Shreveport's story. I was born in Cedar Grove, raised by a single mother. A simple thank you doesn't convey the love, admiration, and appreciation I have for my mom. She worked multiple jobs to make ends meet, but not only that, she feared for our lives when gunshots rattled outside of our house at night, sometimes sending me under the bed. And yet she persisted. She made me the man I am today by showing me that through faith and hard work, you can accomplish anything. But as the old saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. I was surrounded by great examples. Loving, principled people. Reverend Roy Thomas, his wife Lois, the Buckleys and Radsburgs that are here with us today, my stepfather, older brothers, my kindergarten teacher, Demetria Dennis, my high school principal, Dr. Sandra McCullough. These are the shoulders I stand on. Because of them, a kid from Cedar Grove could attend the same universities that Presidents Grant and Kennedy attended. This is my debt to Shreveport, and I am eager to pay it forward. Shreveport's future stands right now, starts right now. We are not looking back, we are looking forward. Turning a new page, the next chapter of Shreveport's story is your story. As mayor, I will work to ensure that you get a chance to author your own destiny, that crime does not rob you of your promise, that a lack of opportunity does not deprive you of a quality of life or send you to other cities seeking one. You voted for new leadership, and leadership paves the way. This will be an administration of first. We will establish Shreveport's first Chief Technology Officer, tasked with pursuing smart city technologies that will bring Shreveport into the 21st century. This upgraded infrastructure will position us to attract higher paying jobs, improve educational outcomes, and reduce crime. The smart tech will update our out-of-date water billing system. Our economic development dollars will go towards generating equitable growth that affords new economic opportunities for all of our citizens. This administration will streamline the Metropolitan Planning Commission, making it a vehicle of economic growth rather than a drain on our economy. We are also going to amplify the presence of law enforcement, increasing the number of officers patrolling our neighborhoods. The police department will be part of the neighborhoods they protect. When the police and the people, they serve on the same side. When they trust one another, when they cooperate, there are 200,000 watchful eyes securing our streets. Community-oriented policing doesn't just make crime go down, it makes us feel safer as well. We have a lot of work to do over the next 4 years, and we have to work together. We have to look past our outward differences and directly at the fact that we are all Shreveporters. We are on the same team, and I am part of that team. I am part of this community I serve. Today marks the beginning of a new partnership between the people of Shreveport and their government. Citizen is the highest office in our land. I work for you, whether you voted for me or not. I am your mayor. You are my employer. I serve the citizens of Shreveport, all of you. This administration will be transparent and accessible, and I expect you to hold me accountable. In conclusion, I am humbled by the task ahead, and I welcome your prayers. I am ready to get to work tonight. Tonight we begin our journey towards a safer, smarter, and stronger Shreveport. Thank you, everybody.
That was the mayor-elect for Shreveport. Adrian Perkins wins tonight, 64% of the vote over Ollie Tyler, 36% of the vote. Something that I guess a few months ago when we started seeing some of that polling data, it said that this was the likely course, and if you looked at the fundraising numbers, they all said the same thing. I did pick up a couple of things between the two speeches. We heard from Ollie Tyler's concession speech a little bit ago, and the one thing that I heard her say towards the end of that one was that it's time to get behind Adrian Perkins. That was something that stuck out to me. And then actually what stuck out to me with Adrian Perkins' speech was how he started it. And I just wrote it down, so I may not have exactly the verbiage. But the paraphrasing that I have written down is, if you wondered if Shreveport has lost hope, tonight was your answer. So pretty strong way to start what effectively is your term as mayor.
Yeah, because while he may not be in the office over the next couple of weeks, he's going to be getting everything set up for him to take over that office.
Yeah, and we talked a lot over the last couple of weeks about transition teams and that kind of stuff, and there was a lot of back and forth. But you and I have both been scouring social media for the last 45 minutes or so since we everyone kind of came to the conclusion that Adrian Perkins was going to win tonight. And actually, for the most part, I think everything I've seen has been fairly positive. And I think it sounds like that's what you're seeing too.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the few angry people who
you could literally tell somebody on social media they won $1 million and they'd find reasons to hate it.
But as a whole, most people seem to be, if they're not overly overjoyed, they're at least positive and hopeful that Adrian will do a good job over the next 4 years.
Which is, I think that mostly is what I have seen, is a lot of people who may not have even voted for him. He may not be their pick. But at this point, and whether that's just a symptom of the way that this fight went, this just seems like people are ready for it to be over and move on. And I think at this point, the way that tonight has gone, I think a lot of people are. I think there are more people who are hopeful after tonight than after a race where it may not have gone the way they wanted it to. In some cases, I guess candidate. The measure of the candidate is maybe why we're seeing a little bit of that, because it's been hard to find somebody who hates Adrian Perkins. Even the people who were campaigning against him, it wasn't like it was a vile hatred of, we've seen in national politics where if this person wins, I'm leaving the country. We didn't see a whole lot of that. What we saw was, I feel like this person would be better because I feel like Ollie would be better because she has experience. Not, I think this guy is going to light the city on fire and ship it off down the river. So I think that might have something to do with the reaction tonight. But there's a lot of questions moving forward, and a lot of like I've been saying all night, a lot of the things that were hypothetical a week ago are now real. And those questions have to be answered, and we have to see how this is going to move forward.
The day he gets sworn in as our mayor is December 29th, so he's got 21 days.
3 weeks. 3 weeks for a solid vacation.
I imagine he'll be everywhere probably this week, and then he'll be gone until the swearing in.
And when we say gone, I assume that he will be
spending time with his loved ones, his mother.
No, that's not what I assume.
And, of course, getting work done, like getting his crew together. But I have a feeling with the poll results we were seeing, a lot of that's already in place and was ready to be put out there as soon as it was made official.
I think he will probably take a little time off. I mean, it is the holidays, so he'll probably take time off for that. But we probably won't see Adrian Perkins after this week until probably that swearing in. So as we look over the landscape, as we wrap up tonight, new mayor in Shreveport, new city council members, new liquor ordinances in Bossier Parish, new official secretary of state for Louisiana. A lot of change happening tonight, and we thank everybody for joining us for it. Everybody who was on Facebook, whether it was Willis David or Jim Fuller or anyone else that commented and played along on Facebook tonight. We thank everybody who was out in the streets for us, Erin McCarty, Robert J. Wright, Matt Parker at the controls tonight, everybody streaming us on the free KEEL mobile app, everybody who had any part in tonight, thank you very much for being a part of KEEL's Election Night coverage 2018. Let's do it again next year. Or maybe the year after. Or in 4. Someone else can do it. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Drier air pushing in as we head through the second half of our weekend and into the start of our business week. Cloudy tonight, showers tapering to an end, overnight lows mid-30s. Mostly cloudy skies Sunday, although we could see a little bit of sunshine